My name is Maria Ellis. I'm 41, and for nearly 20 years I was a rescue officer in the United States Air Force. Now, I live a simpler life in Tucson, Arizona, where the air is arid, and the nights are calm enough to rest easy. I don't often share what I did in the service. To most, I'm just a woman with a slight limp who keeps her past private. They don't know about the missions or the medal hidden in a velvet case in my dresser, never once put on display. This week, I booked a flight to Florida, not for a getaway. It's for a quiet family event honoring my ex-husband's grandfather, a man who once called me the daughter he never had. He showed me kindness long after my marriage ended, and when I learned he'd asked for me, I couldn't say no. I chose a first-class seat for one reason: my back. Years of jumps, rough landings, and a surgery that didn't fully fix me make economy seats feel like torture. My VA doctor warned me months ago that tight spaces on flights could leave me in pain for weeks, so I booked the seat not for comfort, but for healing. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. No family heads-up, no posts online. I packed light, booked the ticket, and planned to slip in and out without drawing attention. I wasn't looking to stand out. I just wanted to honor someone who once made me feel like I belonged. The moment I stepped onto the jet bridge, I recognized her. Brittany, my former sister-in-law, standing there in sharp heels and a crisp Navy uniform, holding a clipboard, her smile just professional enough. She didn't blink when she saw me, just tilted her head and said my name like it hadn't been 8 years since we last spoke. She looked polished, a bit more refined than I remembered, with a harder edge. We exchanged a few polite words, the kind you say when there's history you'd rather not dig into in public. I said it was good to see her. She told me there'd been a change. Apparently, a loyalty program member needed my seat, a frequent flyer, a last-minute upgrade. She called it a logistical shift, said she was sorry. She wasn't. Her voice stayed steady, her eyes cool. I stood there for a moment, letting her words sink in. There was no regret in her tone, just the polished delivery of someone who'd rehearsed it. My boarding pass was swapped for a new one, freshly printed. Seat 34B. I didn't argue, I gave a single nod and stepped aside. I had nothing to prove, not to her, not on that plane. As I moved down the aisle, I felt eyes flick toward me. Some passengers looked away quickly, others tilted their heads, likely wondering why a woman in boots with a veteran's pin was headed to the back. I gripped my carry-on tighter. Inside, wrapped in a soft cotton scarf, was the silver star I never mentioned. It wasn't for them, it wasn't for show. But in that moment it felt heavier, like the ribbon itself had grown denser. The walk to row 34 seemed to stretch on. It wasn't just the ache in my spine or the slant of the aisle. It was the quiet sting of memory, old Thanksgivings, stiff family photos, and words I should have said years ago but held back. Brittany once called me a shadow she could never measure up to. Maybe she still felt that way. I reached my seat, settled into the window side, and tucked the bag deeper under the seat. My knees grazed the chair in front of me. The overhead vent hummed softly. A child behind me kicked my seat lightly. I didn't cry. I didn't snap. I didn't glance back toward the front of the plane. I just stared at the small screen in the seatback and listened to the murmurs of passengers settling in, chatting, typing, scrolling. No one asked what had happened. They didn't need to. People rarely notice when dignity is shuffled to the back. The cabin lights dimmed as the final boarding call came over the speakers. Passengers were getting comfortable, flipping through magazines, adjusting pillows, watching the last stragglers board. I just closed my eyes for a moment when the atmosphere shifted. It started with a hush. Not the usual pre-takeoff quiet, but the kind that sucks the air out of a space. Conversations cut off mid-word. The sounds of zippers, snacks, and tapping stopped. I opened my eyes as someone stepped onto the plane. His boots hit the floor with a steady, purposeful rhythm. He didn't speak, didn't smile, just moved forward with a presence that made people sit up straighter. His uniform was immaculate, every ribbon and star perfectly placed, his silver hair trimmed, his jaw firm. Brigadier General Marcus Hale wasn't someone you overlooked. Not when he entered a space, and definitely not now, striding down the aisle of a packed flight, his eyes scanning the rows with quiet purpose. Passengers turned to watch. Even the flight attendants froze. Brittany stood at the front, her clipboard lowered, lips slightly parted like she didn't know what to say, but he wasn't looking at her. His gaze cut through the curtain, past the premium seats, past economy, straight to the back. He was looking for me. His steps were measured, no hurry, no doubt, like he'd already been told exactly where I'd be. Row 34, left side. Middle-aged woman, dark coat, reserved. I felt each step press against my chest. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. He stopped at my row, silent, just looking at me. There was recognition in his eyes and something deeper, a calm born from seeing things most never will. I met his stare. He didn't look away. The cabin stayed quiet, the tension so heavy it felt like the walls had closed in. A flight attendant stepped forward, then hesitated. General Hale spoke, his voice low, meant just for me. His words were soft, but the moment was loud. Something had changed, and every person on that flight sensed they were about to see something they couldn't yet grasp. General Hale turned to the front and spoke so the whole cabin could hear. His voice was steady, controlled, the kind that didn't need volume to hold a room. He said there was a woman on this flight who once pulled 3 men from a burning wreck outside Aleppo, one of them him. He pointed at me, said my name, said I never sought praise or accepted the spotlight. He said this woman, Maria Ellis, had earned her place long before any airline handed out loyalty points. The cabin was still, every head turned. Even the engine's hum seemed to quiet. Brittany stood frozen, her clipboard now behind her back. She didn't speak. Her face had lost color. General Hale looked toward the cockpit and addressed the pilot directly. He requested seat 1A be reassigned, said the flight could wait 5 minutes if needed, but he wasn't flying until a wrong was set right. Then, without waiting for a reply, he turned to me and motioned up the aisle. I paused. My chest felt tight, not from shame, but from the kind of emotion that hits hardest when you've grown used to being unseen. I stood slowly, my knees stiff. As I passed him, he placed a hand on my shoulder and nodded once. Then he took my old seat, row 34. His tall frame barely fit. He didn't complain. The plane didn't break into cheers. It didn't need to. The silence that followed was louder, a silence that said something rare had just happened. The kind that makes you sit still, breathe slower, and carry it with you. The flight landed in Tampa just after dusk. I grabbed my bag and moved through the terminal like any other traveler, hoping to slip out before questions started. But it was too late. Someone had recorded it. Likely from a few rows back. I hadn't noticed then. I never do. By the time I reached baggage claim, my phone was buzzing again and again. I thought it was just reminders or alerts. But when I checked, I saw my name, my face, my story, a video of General Hale in the aisle, his voice. My name. The words Silver Star, Syria, seat 1A, someone had posted it with the caption, "She stayed silent. Honor the quiet." Within hours, it was everywhere. Veteran groups shared it. Airline workers commented. Old friends I hadn't spoken to in years reached out. News outlets wanted interviews. Bloggers wrote essays. I ignored most of it. But I kept seeing the hashtag, Honor the Quiet. It wasn't just about me. It was about everyone who never asked for recognition, who did their duty and walked away. Messages poured in from other women who served. Some from men who'd been pulled from crashes and never knew who saved them. Even kids reposting the clip with short captions like respect and hero. It spread fast, faster than I could keep up with, faster than I could process. I didn't see Brittany after we landed. She didn't leave with the crew. Someone said she stayed in the galley. Another said she slipped out the back door. I didn't go looking. But as the video spread, another clip emerged. A passenger near first class had caught the moment Brittany swapped my boarding pass. Her tone, her face, and one clear question from another passenger that echoed online. Did you really move a decorated veteran for a loyalty upgrade? That question sparked a fire. Comment sections exploded. Airline policies were questioned. People demanded apologies. The clip replayed on morning shows with headlines like Silent Hero Gains Loud Support and General Reshapes the Seating Chart. I stayed quiet. That's always been my way. But in a strange turn, that quiet became the loudest thing of all. 2 days later, my phone rang just after 9 a.m. The name on the screen stopped me cold. Brittany. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up. Her voice was soft, almost unsteady. She didn't ask how I was, she just started talking. She said she was sorry, said she didn't know about the medal or the stories. She only knew the feeling she got when she saw me in a room. Like the air changed. Like people gravitated toward me and away from her. She admitted something I never saw coming. It wasn't the uniform or the rank or my service. It was how people looked at me, like they saw strength. And when they looked at her, it felt like they were waiting for something she hadn't yet become. She said it made her feel small, like no matter how hard she worked, she'd always be in the background. The sister-in-law, the one who stayed. And when she saw me on that plane after all those years, it all rushed back. Her voice broke as she said it. I didn't interrupt. I just listened. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just needed to say the truth aloud, and I let her. Because sometimes admitting what you've buried is the first step to letting it go. I waited for her to finish, let the silence linger just long enough to feel real. Then I said what I'd carried longer than she knew. Speaking the truth matters. But what you do next shapes who you become. Respect isn't earned through attention. It's earned by living in a way that doesn't need an audience. I told her redemption isn't about being forgiven. It's about becoming someone new. I said change starts without a spotlight. There was no anger in my voice, no pride either. Just the calm that comes from seeing enough of life to know which words matter. Before we hung up, I said one last thing. You owe that to yourself, not me. Then I let the silence carry the rest. Most mornings, I walk 2 blocks from my house to the community center with a thermos of coffee and my keys clipped to my belt. I teach a women's self-defense class twice a week in a back room with worn mats and flickering lights. The sign on the door just reads Miss Maria, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. The women who come are a mix, young moms, students, retirees. They arrive with shaky hands and tight shoulders, unsure of what they're stepping into. By week 2, they laugh louder, stand taller, move with intent. They don't know about the medals, I don't mention them. They just know me as the woman who notices everything, speaks when it matters, and always remembers their names. I adjust their stances gently. I don't shout, I don't need to. The room smells of sweat and rubber mats. The floor creaks in spots, but there's a warmth here built slowly, one small moment at a time. Sometimes I stay late, sweeping the floor or showing someone how to balance better. They thank me. I nod, that's enough. No one asks about my past, and I've grown to like that. They know who I am now, and that's what counts. Last Thursday, I watched a girl in the back of my class nail her stance for the first time without hesitating. Her shoulders used to curve inward, her eyes glued to the floor. That morning, she looked her partner in the eye, planted her feet, and held steady. It wasn't loud. It wasn't showy. It was just a moment of quiet confidence. Something had changed in her, and I felt it. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. She knew. Watching her, I thought of that flight, the aisle, the silence, the feeling of standing still while the world moved around me. I hadn't said much that day, but the moment lingered longer than any words could. We're often taught to fight loud, to speak out, to push forward, but strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it stands quietly, waiting for the storm to pass. Stillness is strength. Silence sometimes is power.